FearScape Media Network, exploring the unknown, one podcast at a time.
Support for FearScape Paranormal Podcast is brought to you by Manscaped. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels.
Man, do you know what is spookier than a black cat on Halloween?
Ghosts, aliens, Freddy Krueger, pretty much anything other than a cat.
You remember that house in the neighborhood everybody has when it's all overgrown?
Oh, yeah. It's got like the vines running up the house.
Bushes are all overgrown. They never cut their grass.
Yeah, they never cut their grass.
There's like a bike in the front yard that we don't know how long it's been there.
You can't even see if they've got windows or doors.
I mean, nobody wants to go there to get a candy bar on Halloween. Don't be that house. Trim your stuff. Go from a bite-sized candy bar to a king-sized candy bar.
Smooth as chocolate bars.
And join the 2 million men worldwide by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with code FearScape. Everybody likes a nice smooth gourd. I mean, let's just face it.
That's right. Do you want a jack-o'-lantern
or a jacked up a lantern?
Or a jacked up a lantern? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you got to unlock your confidence with this performance package 4.0. You're going to find grooming items, all sorts of stuff. And of course, you don't want to look like a werewolf this Halloween.
And I mean, they don't call it the weed whacker for nothing.
There's a bunch of other life-changing products on their website, so be sure to check it out. You can get 20% off and free shipping with the code FearScape at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the code FearScape at manscaped.com, manscaped.com. So say trick or treat to your beautiful new Halloweeny with Manscaped and make sure that they are smooth as chocolate bars.
Thank you for tuning in to FearScape Paranormal Podcast. We are on a journey to understand and to discover the phenomena that seems to exist all around the globe. We invite you to join us on this journey into the unknown.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another fantastically enlightening episode of FearScape Paranormal Podcast here on the FearScape Media Network. I am your host, Stefan Gearhart, and I am joined, as always, by the genuinely toughed Josh Rutledge.
I'm going to, you got the psychic dictionary. I'm going to have to get you a freaking thesaurus so that you can move on from descriptors about me that, I mean, people are going to think I'm a freaking Sasquatch.
No, man, you're tough, dude. A
tuft of hair is like a big ball of hair.
That's what I'm talking about. It's like
I'm a big ball.
A group of hair growing together at the base. Like you are genuinely just grouped together. But I'm going to say not with hair, my friend, but with knowledge.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, if I was a group of hair growing together at the base, I should use my Manscaped.
Yes, you should use your Manscaped. And I'm going to braid you. Like, I am going to braid you. That just sounds awful.
That sounds horrible.
It does sound horrible. So moving on from that. Just a reminder, guys, check out manscaped.com. Use that coupon code there, FearScape. Get 20% off, all that stuff. All of that helps us out, as well as joining our Patreon, fearscapepodcast.com/support or patreon.com/fearscapepod. Those are great ways to join us for a monthly membership. But Josh, there's another way that can help us if you don't want to do monthly.
Yep. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/fearscape and just buy us a coffee.
Hey, my mom just did it the other day.
I know. I saw
Mom.
that.
My mom dropped us some, buy us a coffee, and she didn't even have to do that. Even though I was like, Mom, you could have just sent me like a Target gift card. I mean, I would. Josh doesn't need any of that. I need it. I want to get some popcorn and one of them personal pan pizzas.
We really appreciate you all listening and everything, and any anything that you can do to help us, we're appreciative. But at the end of the day, just listening is also just as good. So
yeah, listening and of course sharing, rating, reviewing wherever you find that, especially in Apple Podcasts. It's kind of one of the best places to do a review. We love those, and we love all the folks that have sent us pictures of them in their shirts that they've gotten from our store, fearscapepodcast.com/store. So much fun stuff, stickers and all that. So I'm going to stop with the advertisement here, Josh.
Yeah.
And I'm going to jump right into our first segment of the week because I want to get to our interview today, which you guys have heard our interview with Chrissy Newton and Chris Plain of the Debrief. Well, we have gotten to speak with Cristina Gomez, who's also at the Debrief. I think at this point we are family with the Debrief.
Yeah.
These are our cousins now.
Right. We're going to see him at the family reunion.
If you haven't figured this out yet, we love the Debrief a lot. It is a fantastic news site. The Debrief is so great.org. Make sure to check them out. Cristina Gomez, she's a producer there. She also hosts 2 amazing YouTube shows that you guys are just going to love. We will get to all that, but let's get to our first segment. Like I said, first segment of the week, which is Psychic Word of the Week. Bet you saw that coming.
And now, the Psychic Word of the Week.
All right, Psychic Word of the Week, as usual, comes from the Encyclopedic Psychic Dictionary from June G. Bletzer. Rest in peace, Honey Bear. I love you, and I never knew you. I flipped through the pages this time, Josh, and I landed on page 435. And the word that grabbed my eyeballs was called Newman, though not like Newman from Seinfeld, but N-U-M-E-N.
Okay.
And I do also want to say, I wish I had seen this one first, because over to the left on the other page, I see nudity in magic. And I'm like, all right.
That's that blue star ritual that they talked about on Hellier, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But Newman is the one that I grabbed here, and in parentheses it says to nod is where the base comes from, and Rome is where this comes from. There's 2 definitions here. The first one says a movement of the head. The sign was first recognized by the administrators. When the head nodded, another force was working within the speaker and would be heard as the lecture moved along. For example, an etheric world intelligence, this experience was awed and revered. 2 is a sign of the head nodding for the mental psychic to now he or she is now receiving help in their psychic information. This nod occurs spontaneously without any effort on the part of the psychic. A human omen to no one is tuned in. So this is the second one is basically saying this is how you know that they are channeling, which I guess you've said kind of happens to me. My head drops. I kind of do a nod when I go into channeling mode. So yeah, I guess I can kind of see that, but it's referred to in Roman times as Newman. So
like the salad dressing. No, it's spelled
that's
differently
Newman's
too.
own. Newman's
okay.
own.
Okay.
But yeah, very, very interesting. It also, they did talk about in that first, I like that sometimes she also makes sure to put some non-psychic things in there. She talked that it was a way for lecturers in ancient Roman times to kind of know it was time to move on, almost like with stand-ups, how you flash a flashlight. I think there's some Roman guy, some proctor back there, and he just gives a Newman, and the guy's like, well, I gotta go. Make sure to wash your feet, ladies and gentlemen. The sand is hot. The sand. Well,
just it's better than the big giant hook that they would use to grab you.
In vaudeville times, yeah, that could hurt, especially if it's sharpened. But anyways, thank you, June G. Bletzer. Newman is our psychic word of the week. We are going to get to our next segment, Josh, which is the Mandela effect. I got 3 for you.
Did you say mandala?
No. I said Mandela. The Mandela effect.
All right, the Mandela effect. You guys at this point know the Mandela effect is a memory that many people share that no longer exists to people in this dimension, so to speak. People think that there was a dimensional shift or whatnot. The one being, of course, that Nelson Mandela had died in prison, and some people remember that, though that didn't actually happen. Some people think that they shifted from a different dimension. I have 3 today that the reason I'm using them is because all 3 of them got me this time. So sometimes there's some I'm like, I don't believe this, but then you were like, oh, I remember it that way. That's what's fun about this, is that even this list that I found a number of on, this guy was like, there's not a person here that remembers every single Mandela effect, because everyone has their own, because so many shifts happen all the time that it doesn't matter. So the first one I want to talk about is a quick one, and it involves the Mona Lisa. So the Mona Lisa, we all know, was one of the probably the most famous painting on the planet, the Mona Lisa. And no, this has nothing to do with her smile or her smirk. The new thing that I was reading about was, if you look at the Mona Lisa, it shows that she is wearing a black veil over her hair. I do not ever remember her wearing a black veil. I just remember her hair. I remember her forehead being clear. There is a number of people that recall it the same way I do, but if you look at the painting, you can even see the black mark going across her head where the veil sits, and along her hair you can see the black veil sitting there. This is one that is really perplexing people a lot, because this is the most highly scrutinized and famous painting in the world, yet the vast majority of folks are dumbfounded by the fact that there is a black veil on her forehead. There are some out there that think that the painting got stolen at some point and someone did a recreation and couldn't remember and gave her a veil. I think that's bogus. But yeah, Josh, do you remember a black veil?
Well, I don't, but I have never really studied up close the Mona Lisa. So, you know what? I will give an update on the next episode, because my wife is a huge art person, and I'll ask her after the show tonight and see what she says, and I'll give an update next week. Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, you can look at it, just search pictures of the Mona Lisa, do a zoom in there, you can see the veil go across her head there. Yeah, it sits. And someone was talking about this also shows us that she would be pregnant, because in Italy at that time, the only women that wore these type of veils at that time were women that were pregnant. Apparently, from what this video said. I don't know how true that is. I did simply just do my research based off the article that I read. So I don't know how legit that was. But anyway, so there's that. So the next Mandela effect that I have involves sugar. Sugar, of all things. What have we always been told, Josh? If you give your kids sugar, what happens?
It rots their teeth.
Well, yeah, that, but it also hyperactivity. They're going to go crazy. They're going to bounce off the walls. They're going to get a big energy rush, correct?
Yeah.
It's what we've always been told. I mean, I feel like I remember learning that in school. Like it was a thing. No, sugar has never been said to create an energy rush. In fact, a scientist did a study on it 20 years ago or whatever in the 90s and found no correlation to hyperactivity or to an energy rush in any way, shape, or form. On a scale of 100, it talks about how fast things metastasize to glucose in your system, right? Which the bigger the number in terms of 1 to 100, the quicker it could essentially rush your blood. Sugar only sits at like a 57 or something like that, whereas a slice of white bread is at 100. But you've never heard anyone be like, don't eat that bread, you gonna go white bread crazy. Like
I don't think I've ever heard that.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. So there's far more sugar in terms of the way that it metabolizes in your system in bread than simply eating a spoonful of sugar. This bread, how it's processed and things like that, causes that. It would cause more of a rush than actual sugar would be. So it's very, very interesting where that came from. People think maybe it was a misinformation campaign. Maybe there was some sort of other product that was out there.
Or maybe it was a carryover from a time when we didn't know that was the answer, right? So
sure.
Like our parents, their parents told them, so on and so forth, and it was a carryover without anybody really understanding the science behind it.
Right. Well, there are old commercials that talk about it from the health advisory boards and things like that. That it's just crazy that was even a thing, because now you try to find anything on it and they're like, no, never. But I mean, I remember watching commercials on it, like that it'll keep you up, and I still feel like I do. I'm like, oh man, I better not eat this sugar. I'm gonna go bouncing off the walls. But yeah, it's not true. Scientifically, it does not do that. So I thought that was very, very interesting. That one really got me. The last one I have on the list is Britney Spears. She's hot right now in the news because of her conservatorship. And this is one I've heard for a number of years, and I totally agree with this as well. And this is a pop culture one. And I know you love the pop culture ones, Josh. But
are you going to tell me she wasn't wearing a mic at a concert?
She wasn't wearing her microphone in the Oops, I Did It Again music video. I very much remember this. I remember this so much, her having that microphone. And in fact, like, this article shows old like pictures of people wearing costumes and stuff from like the late 90s, early 2000s, and they all like have a microphone. Even like from the costume shop, it came with the headset microphone for the Oops, I Did It Again costume. There's even some toys that came out and it had the microphone on it. There's no concert footage of her doing this with that microphone that everybody remembers. No one can find any footage of her having that microphone and that costume at the same time. This guy even pointed out that in the video, there's a point where she kind of moves her hand across her face and it looks as if she would have been moving a microphone. And people are like, what? I don't know. It's weird, but I'm telling you, dude, like, I remember this vividly. And just the same, if you were to draw it, if you would say, hey, draw me Britney Spears from Oops, I Did It Again, somebody would draw her in that costume and put that microphone on her head.
I mean, it seems like this can be easily solved by just asking Britney.
Oh, well, she says I never wore one. That's the thing. But no, it's not solved, because if the Mandela effect is true, then we shifted dimensions, and she didn't, or whatnot. Yeah. She wasn't a part of that. So, I don't know. Yeah. How weird would that be for you to be in the Mandela effect and you remember it a different way? And you're like, yeah, well, I'm looking back at my music video and I used to have a headset. That would be creepy for you to experience your own Mandela effect.
Yeah. I also wonder if it's something where, like, I'm not trying to solve it, but shot it, put it out, the video, and then had to go back and change something about it, and when they redid it, they took out the microphone.
Yeah, no one knows. All the people have done research into it. There are people like behind the scenes that say there was never a micro. I mean, it's like this is one of the big ones that people do a ton of research on, because a lot of people remember this that way, and there has not been a thing where people have been able to say this is why people remember it. So yeah, I don't know. Anyways, that's my Mandela effect effects for the week, Josh. And I appreciate you coming along for the ride.
Well, it was tantalizing.
It was. Brittany does that. Anyways, let's move on to our final segment. It's a brand new segment that we're super pumped about, that we've been wanting to do for a while. So put your get your heat vision cameras on, because we are getting geared up for the first ever Sasquatch sighting of the week. All right, Josh, the Sasquatch is knocking at the door. So let everybody know where we're getting our information from and all the good stuff about our Sasquatch sighting of the week.
Yep. So this comes from the BFRO, which is the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization. You can get to it from bfro.net. This particular sighting happened back in June in Arizona, in Apache County.
Nice.
The nearest town was Holbrook.
Yeah, I think I looked up that one of the cryptids that's in Arizona is the Mogollon Monster, which is in the Mogollon Rim. It's not too far from there. I mean, it's probably like maybe an hour south or whatever, but that's a Sasquatch. So very interesting to hear another one. So I'd love to hear this.
Yep. So so in Holbrook, they were heading west on I-40 at about 9:30 in the morning, and he and his wife saw a Bigfoot or Sasquatch 100 to 150 yards from the highway heading north. It was not running, but walking. It never looked at the highway. It must have been 7 to 8 feet tall. It was thick, as in well built. There was a rock outcropping behind it, which made it very visible. There had to be other travelers who saw this also. We got a long look at it, like 15 to 20 seconds. It was west of Houck, Arizona. We were traveling in a 30-foot motorhome, so we couldn't stop. There was other cars behind me, a red motor coach towing a car with a woman driving. I'd like to add that it was like seeing any other type of natural wildlife on the side of the road. They are real, and I'm a believer now. It's hard to explain it to even family. I'm 62 years old and have nothing to gain by reporting this except the fact that they should be documented and protected at all costs. They are truly one of the great creations.
Wow, fantastic. What an amazing sighting. And I love that. I hate that. I hate that you have to see something with your own eyes to become a believer, but very cool, man.
Well, I mean, that's true of a lot of things, though.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
It's just that, and I think especially in the world that we're in, this particular topic, it's always true. So,
very, very cool. Well, you guys can expect to hear more of Sasquatch sightings throughout the next, 100 or so episodes. So be on the lookout for more of those. We're going to have more of those to come. And speaking of moving on, I want to get to our interview, Josh. Man, we've got the debriefs. The debriefs, Cristina Gomez. So stick around after the break. We're going to be getting spooky with Cristina Gomez. Hey there, blanket huggers. Stefan here from FearScape Paranormal Podcast. Got some good news for you. If you want to join in on the investigation of the mystery of the recent emails from the man claiming to be Terry Rist to Josh and myself, aka the Spooky Crew, and his advice on where to look for more high strangeness, or if you simply want to become a patron blanket hugger for some cool swag and behind the scenes goodness, go ahead and join our Patreon at fearscapepodcast.com/support or patreon.com/fearscapepod. There you can get Riskwatch access to the Terry emails themselves, the WhatsApp conversation about it all with Josh, Stefan, Santosh, and Olaf Phillips, and even any clues that are new that we have found in other Fearscape-related bonus content. You can even help out and add anything that you have found to help us dive deeper into the mystery. And remember, you can also just be a normal blanket hugger, as there are a few non-wristwatch tiers for patrons not interested in Terry Rist and that journey. You'll still have access to bonus interviews, articles, and live Patreon-only Q&As, as well as early access and discounted tickets to events put on by Fearscape, such as psychic events, tarot readings, etc. Or you can simply support however you feel comfortable, with tiers as low as $1. So join today.
Hi, friends. This is Kelly with Wishful Drinking and Binge Thinking, the podcast where I get just absolutely hammered and I dole out psychological advice. That's right, I am going to be more drunk than that girl you met in the bar bathroom after your karaoke set who said, "You have such good stage presence. Oh my God." That's right, zero preparation, multiple drinks, countless profound gems. Tune in the last Monday of every month on FearScape Media Network.
And thank you guys so much for sticking around and rejoining us here on FearScape Paranormal Podcast. As promised, we have the one, the only Cristina Gomez, producer at the Debrief and the host of Mysteries with a History, as well as Shifting the Paradigm. Boy, are we lucky. Hey, Cristina, how are you?
You flatter me too much, but it's good to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
That's how I got my wife, and it keeps on working. So if we can keep maintaining
wife is
guests,
a happy life.
Amen.
Yes.
Happy husband is no. There's
doesn't
no
matter.
Thing, so it doesn't matter. No, it does. No. It does. It does matter. It matters a lot.
Well, as long as you feed him, because
that's
the
right.
way to a man's heart is through his stomach.
I know. My wife, she likes to bake, and on our second date, we went and saw the Doctor Strange movie. So we're actually this weekend is our 5-year anniversary of our first date, and our second date, we went and saw Doctor Strange, and this woman baked me pumpkin snickerdoodles and brought what she called movie cookies, and I was like, I'm gonna marry this girl.
That was a good choice.
And she ain't baked since. No, I'm just no, she loves to bake. I cook, she bakes. It's a perfect combination. So if we just get somebody to make cocktails, man, it'd be great. So
just wash the dishes.
Or wash the dishes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is going to be a repeat of Chris playing. We're going to talk about baking for 20 minutes, and then we're going to get into the show.
I don't bake. I'm going to talk about making spaghetti and pizza and steak and
fried rice,
steak,
noodles,
fried rice noodles.
Don't you bake pizza? Isn't that
you can fry it? I don't know how it will turn out, but like, could you imagine putting the dough on top of like a frying pan with? Like,
so you know those square pizzas, the Totino square pizzas?
Yeah, those would be good. You could deep fry those.
I put those in an air fryer.
Well, air fryer's different. That's just basically a stove with a fan. So
okay, it doesn't count.
I mean, I love my air fryer. So anyways, Cristina, thank you so much. I have ADHD.
And that's the show.
And we're done. Thank you for having me.
Let's go ahead and shift the paradigm, guys, to a more
is that copyrighted?
Please.
Cristina, we are such a big fan, obviously, of the debrief, as Chris Plain makes me say, instead of the debrief. But we love you guys. We love everything you guys do, and we have been so honored to have such a love, not only for us, but for just wanting to come on board and us getting a chance to like dig into your guys' brains. And so between Chrissy and Chris, like
I figured we've got the trifecta. We got Chrissy, Christine.
Yeah, I know. I was like, one of these days we're gonna get somebody at the debrief that doesn't have Chris in the front
like
part
John
of the name.
or something.
Yeah. I'm gonna be like, Micah, you can't. It doesn't start with Chris. Bye.
Well, it's as soon as I entered the debrief, Chris made that exact joke. He's like, if your name doesn't start with the Chris, get out of here. So all of the co-founders, they just left.
Well, there you go.
Congratulations on the debrief then.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Well, now it's called the debrief.
The debrief.
Anyways.
So let's get kicking it here. How did you get involved with the debrief and kind of give everybody just kind of a rundown on what you do there and why you do it?
Sure. So I originally started my YouTube channel called Shifting the Paradigm. By this time, I only had it for like a few months. I was really, really new to podcasting, talking to the camera. I was honestly very awkward. It was very uncomfortable, but I got through it. Anyways.
Like Josh still.
I mean, the background's fire though. Tim saw something in my shows. He liked what I was, the content I was creating. So he reached out to me and said, hey, I really like your content. Do you want to be a part of the debrief? And I'm like, what's the debrief? But sure. I mean, why not?
Yeah.
What do I have to lose? So that's how it started. So now I make, I create YouTube videos for them covering articles that are written by other authors or interviewing people as well, such as Lou Elizondo, Jacob Hack-Mishra, or James Fox, and there's going to be a few others in the near future. So I really enjoy working for them. It's really exciting. It's like definitely you're part of a family. I feel like I can talk about whatever I need to, either related to the debrief or things kind of just like related to the UFO topic, or even like the science and futuristic aspects of this field as well. So it's a lot of fun. I really like it. And making content is what I do. Like making intros, outros, doing the music, doing the whole green screen.
Yeah.
It's very incredibly time consuming,
Yep.
but it's a passion of mine. And I don't think I would ever go back to anything else except making this kind of content.
Right. Yeah. And not to embarrass you, but boy, they worship you. Both Chrissy and Chris had just sung your praises like it was nobody's business. And at the end of both interviews, we're like, you guys have to connect with her. She is the one you guys want to talk to. You're the one, Neo. You're the one.
The blue pill or the red pill? Well, with Chris, I mean, he always brings a sense of humor. I love talking to him. I mean, I could just have him in my pocket and have him all day, every day.
We
and
were like, we
snacks.
got to stop, guys, or we're going to go 2.5 hours here.
He's the best. And then Chrissy, I feel like she is so smart.
Oh,
it's unbelievable. She has information in the back of her hand, but she also doesn't have a fear in saying that she doesn't know. And plus her background of being a podcaster, having alt pop repeat, she knows what she's doing. I mean, and her voice, when she reads, I'm like, wow, please tell me a bedtime story. It's amazing.
Yeah, we could do that. That's a great, I would watch a YouTube show with Christy just reading adults nighttime bedtime stories.
Just maybe
not
like
for kids, for adults.
Right there.
Yeah.
Just
when that
like
Canadian accent comes out, I love it so much. Like I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and Michigan, so we get a lot of that Canadian accent anyways, and it's like being back home.
Or just read the label of a shampoo bottle. That'd be fun too.
Yeah, I'm for it. But like half those ingredients I can't even read. I'm like,
what is polysorbonate?
Hey, well, Chris is the science guy, so let him read all the science stuff.
So, just gonna jump right into it here. Really tough question.
Okay.
Have you had a UFO experience?
I have.
And that's our show. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
I have, and I actually just very, very recently spoke out about it for the first time. I've always been very reluctant to talk about my experience just because I have absolutely no evidence other than my eyes, my experience, my memories. Yep. And being a part of this field, as soon as I entered UFO Twitter and the UFO YouTube, it's very difficult to gain credibility. Yes. Right off the bat, people are like, are you an agent? Who's paying you? The government? And I'm thinking, I'm really just your average Joe eating ramen and making the content from my very, very, very tiny room house, and that's about it. And also, people don't really take you seriously when you're this young, when you're a female, and not really having any real knowledge of the topic coming into it. So I was very reluctant to tell my story because it would instantly put you in a category, right? Instead of as a researcher. So I just recently came out of the closet.
Congratulations!
On the Singularity Lab with Michael Mataluni and Luis Jimenez, great people, by the way. And it was a lot of fun. And honestly, I got better feedback than I thought I would have. But I think that was after building the credibility that I have, that people can actually respect my experience, even though I have absolutely no evidence to back up my claims.
And that's us. I mean, that's us. I mean, our show. Yeah, our show is what made it more comfortable for us to kind of come forward, I
mean, granted, we got some videos that are pretty interesting, but even those, we've posted them, put them up on YouTube, and people are like, oh, it's a satellite, or it's a far off spotlight, or whatever the case may be. But we talk about it all the time. I mean, I think people who have experiences, those experiences are for them, right? I mean, you can share them, and that helps other people be willing to share their experiences, but really that experience was for you. And it's in any other experience that you have is for you. But I applaud your willingness to share it with other people.
Thank you.
And it's a lot like church, and people do call paranormal folks, it's our spirituality, because you think about it, most of the witness experiences church folk have, they talk about in church. 99% of the time they're sharing with other church members how God did great things for them, or whatever religion they're a part of, and they will try to share that experience. And sometimes some people will be like, oh, neat, hey, I had a similar experience, or oh, I want to know more. But UFOs and paranormal is kind of the same way. It's like, just like Josh said, it's mostly for yourself and those that are there to trust you and believe you and go, wow, that only enhances my story. I mean, again, this is why we started this show, was to show people that they're not alone. You know, we do a listener story called Encounters from the FearScape every week that people send in like encounter they've had with a UFO or a cryptid or a ghost or anything, just to let people know, hey, look, we've got 150 episodes and we've had a different person each time share a story. This is nonstop. You're not alone.
That's beautiful. And I think that's very much needed in this community and be taken seriously. Of course, now you have those very, very few people who lie about their experiences and it ruins it for everyone else. And that's so disappointing that like one or two people that have these most outlandish stories, they come out and saying, oh, sorry, it wasn't true, I was just joking. And then it belittles everyone who actually did have an experience, and now they don't want to talk about it for those exact reasons. I
mean, so I'm of two worlds when it comes to that kind of stuff. Either A, they really did make it all up, or B, they're just embarrassed by it now and want to try to walk it back and gain some semblance of normality back into their life. Think.
I mean, I always talk about the Allagash abduction and those 3 guys that were fishing and, you know, they got abducted and things like that. And forever they all came out. Well, then like the last 10, 15 years, one of the guys has been saying, no, we made it all up. It's all bull crap, blah, 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 blah. And the other 2 guys are like, no, it's not. And so then a skeptic, all they need is one singular thing, one person saying that it's made up, to no longer believe the other 2. And it's sad because that's how it always was. If we take a look at rape culture or things like that, the Me Too movement, that's the way it always was. If somebody else said, oh, nope, that didn't happen, it didn't happen. So now we're starting to see more people coming around in terms of those things. Now let's see if we can start making that happen in the paranormal community as well. I want to see a paranormal Me Too. Like, there's been a lot of talk about that, of really standing up and believing these folks.
Well, it'll be interesting. I'll be waiting for the hashtag too.
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I saw somebody say it should be called hashtag Me Boo because of the ghost stuff.
Yikes.
I don't know.
It's like a real bad dad joke.
I'm down though. I'm down for it.
It seems a little too close to home. So
I know. But hey,
you know, have either of you had a chance to watch Demi Lovato's show on Peacock?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I watched the first episode, and I mean, although the content is really, so far for the first episode, is nothing I haven't already seen across documentaries or whatever the case would be. I also would like, you know, I think that they're doing a really good job there with being willing to come forward and talk about it, especially at the level that they're at in the social eye. And I really hope it encourages a lot of younger audience members to get interested in the topic. So, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing that they're doing with this, is helpfully bringing more people younger in the topic world into the fold. So.
And that's what I believe too, because Demi Lovato has 15 million adoring fans on Instagram and like 17 million on YouTube. I mean, that's insane numbers. And what our UFO community is 50K, 100K, if that. So even if Demi Lovato brings 2% of her audience into the UFO world, it'll blow up our community.
Right.
And even though there's a lot of bashing on her new show, but it's not built for us, for our community, that everyone that we already know about these topics, even just the basics. It's for those that have absolutely no background information on it. So I think their team is doing a really, really great job with the show, even though there are some things that we can agree with and things that we simply cannot agree with on the show.
Yeah, she's got a platform and she decided she wanted to use it. And I'm thankful for that, because we need bigger named folks, like Sammy Hagar recently coming back out and talking about his experience, reopening up about it. I guess he talked about it like 20 years ago and then kind of wrapped it back up, but he's been talking about his abduction experience. And so the and more, because his always got, because, you know, everybody's like, well, you were on shrooms or something, it was the 60s. And so he just kind of wrote it off as like, well, what can I say? I mean, we were partying. So, and now he's with all these more kind of bigger name folks coming forward and things like that. He's come forward, and we've got Demi Lovato talking, and I'm just excited to see where this goes for our community, you know, that we stop being fringe.
Heck yeah, I agree with that. There shouldn't be a fringe topic. It should just be a normal topic.
Yeah.
And if you have an experience, talk about it. And if you didn't, well, then listen, or maybe even read a book about it, because it's something that is so exciting. It's so much fun, regardless if these stories might be true or might be fake, right? Because you're going to have two people being skeptics or not skeptics. Regardless of that, these stories just show how small we are on this world and in this universe altogether. So, even if you don't believe it, just reading it as a bedtime story to your kids or to yourself, it's going to open up your imagination as well.
Yeah, we said that it's like we need to stop as a community asking folks the question, do you believe in UFOs? Because that shouldn't be a question. UFOs are real. That's what they mean. Unidentified flying objects. We know that there are objects that are in the sky, or unidentified aerial phenomenon, UAPs. We know that those exist, so we should stop asking that question, because when you ask that, people then automatically assume you mean extraterrestrials. And that should be the separate question that should be asked is, do you believe that these UFOs or UAPs are piloted by man or piloted by extraterrestrials or something else? That's what we should be asking and engaging, instead of the generic question, do you believe in UFOs? Because you shouldn't. It's like asking, do you believe in dogs? We know that dogs are there.
Well, and really, if the whole point of the topic is to establish a conversation with whomever you're speaking with, then, you know, conversation 101, don't ask a yes or no question. You know, lead the conversation, not necessarily, you know, lead it as in you want to get them to a certain point, but continue the conversation. As soon as you ask that yes or no question, they can say no, and that conversation is over, and then you've lost them. So, you know, whatever you're talking about, I mean, that's the key, I think, is to just, to your point, Stefan, do you think that these craft are being piloted by extraterrestrials or ultra-dimensional people?
Right. Or in Krista Alexander's term, are they just simply lights in the sky? Right.
Yeah. So shoot, I forgot where I was going to go next.
Sorry, I am the king of distraction.
You derailed me.
Well, I was going to say, so you had talked about how you kind of got involved with the debrief, but you were already doing something amazing. And so how did you get into simply just this interest into the paranormal, this interest into UFOs? Was it simply your own experience, or just, just interested in it?
My dad was a huge fan of Twilight Zone. Have you guys seen that TV show?
Oh,
From the early 60s, late 50s.
Yes.
Black and white, yeah.
Oh,
so good.
So much. I mean, I still watch it on repeat to this
I do
day.
Too. That and Outer Limits.
Watch.
Those are two of my faves.
I mean, I like Outer Limits, but Twilight Zone is better. Maybe I'm just biased.
Get. No, I'm just joking.
It's like, difference between SNL and the
Mad TV.
In Living Color.
Oh, in Living Color.
That TV is pretty good, but that's kind of how it started at a young age, through television, and this kind of TV show, especially being so small, about like 5 or 6 years old, starting watching it, it never really gave you the answers. It made you think about what was going on, the scenarios, who the characters were, their backstories, all of these things that by this time in the early 2000s, when I was kind of the age where I was young, born-ish. I don't want to give away my age or anything, but I'm pretty young. Okay,
67 years young today.
Compared to other shows like maybe SpongeBob, for example, which is another great show, by the way.
Oh yeah.
But it was very dumbed down episodes, right? There was no real value. Twilight Zone, it talk on a lot of fringe topics without kind of talking about the fringe topics, if that makes sense. And that's what kind of piqued my curiosity in everything. And then also my father always used to read me bedtime stories about fairy tales and about stories about aliens in space and like how their societies worked and their governments and things of this nature. And so he's still alive. I'm not saying like wow.
Yeah.
Okay, no, he's still living. And he's a huge influence to what I do today. Now, later on, I got interested in photography and it ended up kind of leaning more into video videography to what I create today with doing graphics. And I think in today's world, especially with my generation growing up with cell phones and the internet, you have to be entertaining, but also give the information that is requested, right? Because a lot of people add a lot of fluff. They're saying they'll add all these details that don't matter. Their podcast might be for like 4 hours and they don't hit the topic until like 3 hours later. And I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing here, man?
Yeah.
And so with that kind of knowledge of where I come from, I try my best to stick to the point to the best of my ability. Of course, all of our brains can run on tangents real quick, and it makes sense to us, but to the audience, they're like, what the heck is she talking about?
All of a sudden,
she,
we're
like,
talking
off her
about
rocker?
Cheddar Bay biscuits for some reason. I have no idea how we got.
You son of a
I don't know
bitch.
how we got here, but I'll bring it back. So UFOs and biscuits, so they're pretty similar. But but I mean, what I'm trying to get at is with just having information right at our fingertips where we can get the answer like in a snap of your finger, trying to be relevant, making fun graphics, but also bringing on people that are interesting, at least to me. And when I had first started my show, I knew very, very little about the topic. I was always interested in it. For example, as a kid, you might be really interested in fairies and pixies, and they're awesome, okay? And you're like, yeah, they like to live in apples, they live in a tree, whatever. And that's about as far as your interest goes. And you might think about it here and there, but you don't really do research. That's kind of the same with me with this UFO topic. I've always liked it, but I never really dove deep into it until I entered college when I was out of the house, and I'm like, all right, now I have free time. What should I do with it? Turns out now I don't have free time because I'm so busy being involved in the topic and in the community. But when I first started, those were the questions I had. So I wanted to bring on people that I could ask questions that I think that no one else was asking, or if they did, I didn't find their shows. And that's kind of how that whole thing was going on for me. And I love where it's taken me, and I'm excited to where what's going to happen in the future, because all of us are always growing. Our information is always expanding, and also our skills, either through podcasting or graphics or cooking, for example, whatever. The more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. So I think all of us, from where we start to where we are now, we've all come a long way.
Yeah. And I can see why Chris and Chrissy now definitely pushed us, because that's our story too. I mean, we had all these questions. Josh and I have been damn near lifelong friends. I mean, we've been friends since high school, and like, we've always had questions. We have always been the two that questioned everything, and we did the same thing. It's like, well, we've got this, we're on this journey together. It's paralleling. We're looking at all these crazy paranormal things. We're looking back at things that happened to us in our past and things like that. Who can we talk to? And we started reaching, and Josh just kept getting braver and braver, reaching out to folks like Kathleen Martin, and then they're like, yeah, and then we're like, all right, Kathleen, I gotta ask you this now. And we ask them like questions that they're like, oh, I didn't even I'm like, because I'm asking for myself, like, my audience is listening, but I've got this question and I need to know.
It's burning inside of me. I gotta let it out.
And it's, and we float all kinds of various theories about people.
Man.
And it's so cool to, like, over the last 2 years since I joined the show, to float these various theories, and then people say, oh yeah, I've been thinking about that recently too. Like, oh, I'm not alone. So,
they'll just bring it up in conversation. It's a theory that Josh and I have been talking about. We didn't know was a thing, that we're talking about our idea of what this might mean, or this, that, and then all of a sudden we'll have a guest on and they'll bring it up and we'll be like, oh, we're not alone. And it just is fascinating constantly, and it just continues our journey together.
But that would be like, I would say that if our show had a theme, and all of the stuff that we do, we also have a YouTube show we do with a friend of ours, Santosh, called Astral Stew, and we just talk about random astral related topics. But anyways, all of that has been for the furtherment of our journey, and then people have just kind of come along for the ride, I guess. So it's been a really good couple of years, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years. I don't see it ending anytime soon. So
heck yeah. And with this topic, and the more information that we're getting, the more researchers that are kind of having boots on the ground, there is no end to this.
Yeah.
Probably until you pass over. Well, maybe you might get all the answers, but until then, while we're here on Earth,
Yeah.
we're gonna die just still being curious on all of this.
Yeah.
I can't not be curious. I make this joke every single time, but if you want to run me out of your neighborhood, burn a question mark in my front yard, because that is I can't stop asking questions. My dad always used to give me hell. You ask too many damn questions. I can't not. I have an insatiable need for knowledge, and all that does is it gives me 5 new things to think about when it's given to me.
And that's so important because, as children, we have all those questions. We ask all of these things, but then we get shut down by our parents, by our teachers, by other people, by strangers. And then we stop asking those questions. We're like, oh no, I can just fake that I already know the answer. And then it evolves through our adult life where we stop being curious. We stop asking questions because we believe that we're going to be ridiculed by asking such things. So I feel like children are so important. They need to be nourished. They need to be taken care of. And we should let them ask the questions so that they can be like us, that we are still asking the questions, that we're not scared to ask, and that when we do ask these questions, other people are having the exact same questions in their mind, and they're going to say, thank you so much for asking that. I was too terrified to do so because I thought, well, maybe it was a stupid question. But there are no such thing as stupid questions. No matter how stupid you think it might be, there are no such thing as dumb questions, except how long does it take for water to boil? My mom always says, well, just keep staring at it and it'll never boil.
A watch pot never boils. But Data on Star Trek did watch, and it happened every time. I teach, like I said, I teach improv, and I love teaching kids because they're already ready to go. I mean, they have the mind for improv. But adults, it's so interesting. I always have to teach them how to, what I say is, reactivate that imagination muscle.
Well, they're so hesitant.
Oh my goodness, it's so crazy because we're always taught, don't tell stories, don't do this, don't do that, keep your mouth shut. And I have to remind them how to, and in fact, when I used to live by this place, I used to take my group of new improvisers to this playground, and I would make them play for an hour. It was like one of those ones that had like the ship stuff, and so I would make them say, be pirates, god damn it. And like a half hour into it, they're finally getting into it, and they're like, oh my god, I could see the water, I could, and I'm like, there, good, we're good, let's go learn now. But you have to like teach, you have to like break in that muscle again, because just like you said, society teaches us to shut up or to be afraid. And Josh and I talk about it all the time. Almost every story we get from people, even the listener stories, almost always starts with, I know I'm going to sound crazy, but, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Not. Because first of all, if you're saying you're crazy, you're not.
You're putting a label on yourself.
Yeah.
Well, and a couple things. So Einstein has a really good quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly word for word, but it's, when you stop learning, you start dying. And so, I really love that. Yeah. And, I have two main rules for my kids. Number one rule is you can do anything you set your mind to. And number two rule is never stop learning. And so, they are constantly asking me questions, which is pushing me to constantly learn more so that I can answer the questions they're asking me. So it's a really nice, really symbiotic relationship there. But my kids ask me a lot about UFOs and Bigfoot because they know that I do the show and I'm into this kind of stuff. And I don't really mind answering those questions, but appropriately staged for kids of 7. So, I don't want to, them to not sleep at night because you're
like, yes, the Falk monster ate 14 people.
So
right. I won't be sleeping for a few days.
No, yeah. but it's funny. I was taking them to school the other day, and it was foggy, and the street lights, you couldn't really see the pole, but you could see the light in the fog, and they're like, it's an alien spacecraft. It's coming to get us. and I was like, well, what scares them away is when you sing the ABC. So they started singing the ABC really loud. So it's just
you sneaky bastard, getting them to do some ABC. Now they're gonna be like 25 years old, and they're gonna like be in college, and they're gonna be looking out, and they're gonna see this UFO. They're gonna be like A B C D E F G.
And then, I told them that all cars look like rhinoceroses to the aliens. So as long as we're in a car, they'll just think it's a rhinoceros and they'll leave us alone. So anyways, but to your point, it's that fostering of the imagination. And, we all lose that kind of imagination at some point in life. Life beats us down or whatever. So it's important that we get it back. Yeah.
It is. It's so important because that's what makes us young. It's having that imagination. It's asking those questions. It's actually going out there. And even if you stay home and read a book, you're still going out there from the box that you placed yourself in just a little while ago. And I think it's very, very, very important to keep our imagination up, but also not too much that if you do see a lamppost, you'll think it's a UFO. Okay,
right.
Best not. I mean, you definitely want to be a skeptic and have some kind of like foundation of the basics when it comes to these kinds of things before you let your imagination run a little too far and you're like, everything is an alien coming to eat me. Like, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's like my nephew when he was
that.
younger. Anytime a street light would go out, he was like, "Oh, Hagrid took it," just like in Harry Potter. So I was like, "Yeah, I like that." So that's what I think of anytime I see a light go out. I'm like, Hagrid's here. He's
really,
just soft. He's more soft-footed than you realize.
really though, it's the demon that's coming to eat your soul.
Whoa.
Ooh. Sorry, just
got dark real quick.
Yep. BFFs forever.
Heck yeah.
I'll
bring the noodles.
Yes.
BFFs.
Yes.
BFFs.
Because BFFs forever is one of the F's in BFFs.
Well, because you forever.
Okay. Anyways, so one of the things that Steph and I talk a lot about, and I'm interested in your opinion or thoughts on it, is the relationship between the phenomena that makes up the paranormal supernatural. So we've got UFOs, right? And whatever those things are, wherever they're coming from and who's piloted them and all that kind of jazz. But what about cryptids and ghosts and all the other gambit of things that make up the entirety of the paranormal topic? What are your thoughts on, pick one. What do you think about cryptids? All of them, whatever.
Well, it's something that I'm still looking into myself. Again, I'm very, very new to this field, but one of my favorite things to look at, to research and to hear stories about are about portals. That one's like one of my all-time favorites, where people believe that there's kind of like some kind of tear in our reality or even in our dimension, and entities are able to enter and exit, and they can either be kind of more demonic entities or they could be higher beings. And so regardless if people think that this story is true or not, it's so exciting. And then people could end up bringing religion into it as well, talking about demons, talking about angels. Well, are demons ETs? Are aliens ETs because they're from a different dimension? Does that make them interdimensionals? I mean, there are so many titles that I feel like really confuse us when it's possible that if we just kind of like wiped off all the labels off the table, what if everything's already interconnected? What if everything it just makes sense in one go instead of labeling them in all these bits and pieces? Like for example, branding of shoes. How many brands of shoes do you know? I just call them shoes. Black, brown, green. Okay, that's about it. Okay.
Right.
And the same thing can go with this phenomenon as well, regardless if it's paranormal or if it's the UFO phenomena. Just having names on it just makes it so much more complicated, and when it should be very simplistic.
Yeah, some of them are older names, so it's like, and I think they're older names. We have different languages, right? So, look at the similarities between the jinn and angels and demons, right? So they're very similar, and hell, they come from the same kind of area of the world, really. Why can't they mean the same thing? I mean, the Inuits have, what do they say, like 100 words for different types of snow? So it's like, we have these different things. Why can't our culture have shaped what those things are over time? I mean, just as the British built boats a certain way, the Spaniards built them a different way in the 1600s, but they were still boats, right? That's the way I've always felt about it. It's like they're similar, but different.
And a lot of the cryptids that we have in the world have their name because of where the sighting occurred. But in all actuality, it's probably the same quote unquote animal or species or whatever the case may be. It's just it got its name because it showed up in Fouke, Arkansas, as opposed to, Little Rock, Arkansas. It would be the Little Rock monster if it showed up in Little Rock, Arkansas.
Right.
So, but yeah. So we talk about we talk about that quite a bit. Is that how of the I can't speak, I'm tongue tied. How many of these things are really the same thing that we've just given all these different labels to? Now, I want to take a step back to portals.
Yeah, I was like, do not miss because we love portals.
We love portals.
Portals are the best.
We've just gotten super into it as well, like the last couple months. Like we've always kind of been into it, but we've been diving into it. In fact,
lately, yeah.
In fact, we did an Astral Stew episode on portals. Like it was amazing, and we were like, "Oh, we got this hot tub at the cabin we're at. Let's do it and make a joke, and then we'll shift to the living room and show us going into a portal, but just flush a toilet." We thought it would be hilarious. None of it recorded, and it was so weird. Like
coincidence.
We were like, "Did it go into a portal?" Like
the Men in Black snuck in and pressed the stop button. So
sorry, Josh. You know me.
But I'm curious if you've read about or have been exposed to the Montauk Project at all.
Tell me about it.
Okay, here we go. So in Montauk, up in New York, Montauk Island,
Long Island.
Is it Long Island?
Mm-hmm. It's at the very end of Long Island.
Montauk Point. That's right. So back in the 70s, this old military base is shut down. This guy goes and starts collecting equipment from it for various radio experiments that he's doing. And in the process, he starts having like flashbacks of memories that he had when he actually worked at the base.
He had no idea he worked at this base. He was literally just scavenging for radio parts. He was like he loved shortwave radio and things like that. And somebody had said, "Hey, there's some old stuff there. I can get you access."
We did a whole episode on the topic, so I won't go into very good detail, but I'll just say there is time travel potentially related to the what was in the movies known as the Philadelphia experiment.
This was supposed to be an extension of that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Project Rainbow, I think, is what it was called.
Yeah, I think that's right. Project Rainbow. But yeah, so anyways, in the 80s, supposedly they opened up a portal in time back to the 40s at Montauk Point. That location has now since been turned into a park. All that's left is a radio tower. But like during the time when it was operating, the people nearby, whenever they would broadcast a certain signal, people nearby would they would go on crime sprees. They would all of a sudden start vandalizing buildings and stealing stuff. Then they would turn off the signal and everybody would just kind of go back to normal. So
yeah, and there's all this stuff where the Montauk chair, where the participants that were in the chair were able to put their consciousness into other people in time as well. And there were if I remember it correctly, it's like every 10 or 20 years or something like that, there's a portal that opens on its own that they were able to look at. I mean, it's insane. And there's a lot of skepticism behind it. There's, of course, people are saying the guy made it up because the books he kind of wrote after with this other guy kind of start getting way more fiction, I think, because he's like, oh, I can make money off this now. But that first book and it's just the Montauk Project. I highly recommend. It's really, really good.
It's a short book too.
Yeah, it is short, but I mean, he's got diagrams of things that he recalls.
Pictures of the radio equipment.
There's a number of folks that have come out and said, yes, we were a part of this. It's that they're all having these flashbacks of this PTSD and just all this. It's an insane story, and there's a lot of correlation that in some of these instances where they say these portal opens, things happened. And it's weird. People also say that this is a possibility of the Mandela effect, that it kind of started after Montauk, because there was no talk of things being really different, people noticing things being different, until around the 80s, 70s and 80s is when people really started kind of noticing things. And so they think that, when they ripped open this portal, that's when things started shifting and changing, and certain people shifting and changing, and the things like that. So it's I highly, if you have not looked into Montauk Project, do it. It's awesome.
Have fun down that rabbit hole.
And because then you'll just dig into the Philadelphia experiment as well. So
And that's an insane story altogether.
Oh my gosh.
Things that are documented. It's unbelievable.
Yes, people fused into the walls. Oh yeah. After the experiment, there were supposedly people that not only went insane, but there were people that were fused into the bulkheads and things like that. Just craziness. Like it's sad, and that's where you're like, oh, let me get my aluminum hat on. It's like, but you can't help it. I mean, it's like you're like some of this conspiracy stuff. You're like, okay, there's too many people. Like how many people does it take before we believe? You know, it's like, I don't know.
I feel like you should ask the great Al, that told you about how many bites it takes to get to the center of his Tootsie Roll Pop. He probably knows how many people it takes before a conspiracy theory becomes true.
Well, look how many
he's never even looked through a whole lollipop.
No,
that's true.
Any of the commercials, so he's probably a liar. He doesn't know anything.
Yeah, he just crunches. He's not a good choice, Josh. Your mom warned you about bad choices, and I don't.
Well, yeah, because the candy gets all stuck in your teeth, and you get. Oh,
yeah, I broke a tooth on a Tootsie Roll Pop one time.
Yeah,
true story.
There you go, true story. Never know what you're going to hear on FearScape. So
I still have PTSD, dude. I haven't had a Tootsie Roll Pop since, and I love them. No more. Sorry, Christina. This has become a therapy session. I just want to talk about my experience with lollipop, and it hurt.
So, anyways,
now I have a fake tooth there because of it. Trauma.
All right then. So I want to be cognizant of time, because I know that we're coming up on, and you've got some big stuff to take care of for the rest of the evening here, and I don't want to waste all your time away. Is there something we always try to ask a guest is there a book or two books that you are reading or have read recently that you would recommend to people?
The books that I read are not always related to the topic, but one of them that I did read for the show, talking about Colares, Brazil, which is a really insane incident that happened in the 1970s. It was called, one of the books is called UFO Danger Zone: Terror and Death in Brazil, Where Next? And this was published in 1996 by Bob Pratt, and it talks about multiple incidences that happened in Brazil that are related to the UFO phenomena, one of them being about the Colares incident, which is currently one of my all-time favorite stories, just because it is so outlandish. It's actually so unbelievable, but the fact that it had almost several thousand witnesses, it's very hard to kind of just like brush under the rug and saying no, it didn't happen, when you have so many witnesses that were actually that have their records on the Operação Plato documentation. So it's insane.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I'm with that. I'm like, I get tired of the group hallucination excuse. I'm like, how come you don't apply that to religion, but you apply that to the paranormal?
That's an interesting question.
I mean, when like the Phoenix Lights, for example, look at all those people. I live in Phoenix now, and so I talk to anybody I can. I'm like, where were you when this happened? And and most of them are like, I wasn't alive. And I'm like, oh, I'm old. But I asked it, but so many people. And then a lot of them will say, well, my uncle talks about it. My dad talks about it. There's all these things, or all these people. Yet they're all wrong. Like everyone knows what a military flare looks like. Like they move and they've got smoke coming off of them. I'm like, So yeah, I love that story too. And it's interesting you brought that up. Like I said, I just listened to a podcast that was talking about it the other day, and I love that synchronicity when that stuff happens, because it's fresh.
And there are not a lot of podcasts that actually talk about the subject. When I was doing the research a few weeks back, it was very difficult for me to find other podcasters or other YouTubers talk about it. I had to look at books, documentaries, and things that are kind of like hidden away in an aspect. And I was like, oh, it must be good.
Yeah. Well, and even then, it was one of the things, the podcast wasn't about that. It just was brought up in the midst of the information that they were talking about. They were talking about Betty and Barney Hill, and in the midst of all that, they were talking about some other instances to correlate, because it's like a 7 or 8 I almost said issue. God, it's like comic books. Episode series on Betty and Barney Hill, and so they talked about that and a couple other things, and I was like, ooh. So yeah, but I'm with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really happy that you brought up the topic of synchronicity. And it's insane because I was reading my instruction sheet for my midterm that's due in a few hours. And one of my classes is about philosophy. And in the description of my midterm instructions, it talked about ETs, and I'm like, oh hell no, how is that even related to my class? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm taking a geology class as well. I'm taking multiple, but one of them is geology, and the first week of class we spoke about McWest, and I'm like, what does it do about anything when it comes to geology? Why are these little bits and pieces of the UFO phenomena coming into my classes in such bizarre aspects that literally should not even be pieced together?
Well, and it's that thing, just like you said, synchronicity, or that idea of, would you have even noticed it if you weren't into that stuff, right? Yeah. You know, was that stuff always talked? Like, you think about classes we took before, was that stuff talked about before, mentioned, that we just didn't pay attention to it because we weren't into it at the time? That's the stuff I wonder. I wish I could go back and just check all my memories to see how much influence has always been there, and I didn't even realize it. TV, everything.
Everything. It's crazy. And this topic is just becoming definitely weaved in a lot more to the mainstream, which is exciting. Even though it's being making fun of in some TV shows, some are good, some are not good. Regardless, this topic is being talked about pretty consistently. And one of my favorite TV shows when it comes to this is called Resident Alien, that just came out. Season 2 is coming out pretty soon. Yes. Oh, it's so funny.
So funny.
But then also you have Debrief that also just came out, and it kind of brings in that aspect of alien tech, about portals and about all of these little bits and pieces. And then right now I'm watching Foundation, and that's a pretty good show.
I'm just about to start it myself. I've read the book years ago, so I'm excited.
It's really good.
I'm excited. I want to start it now. My wife and I watch stuff together, so I'm like, we gotta hurry up and finish the show we're watching so we can watch Foundation.
Well, and I'll go ahead and burst your bubble. If you don't know, Debrief was canceled. I was so saddened when I heard about that.
Oh, the last season?
Yeah.
When did that news come out?
I think it was 2 seasons and it was canceled. You talking about the one where the ship is falling to Earth and they're finding little pieces of it all over the place? That's the show you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was canceled.
I don't believe you.
Josh is a Debbie Downer.
No, I was really sad because I was like, it's really hard to get my wife into these kind of shows, and so she was really into that show. And then I was looking up to see when the next season comes out. It was all
right. Just because someone gets canceled don't mean it ain't coming back, because I love Manifest. Because my buddy I went to college with is in Manifest, and it got canceled, and now Netflix is picking it up for the 4th season. Yeah. Same thing with Lucifer, all these great things. So
Lucifer's really good. We just finished it too.
I cried. We almost we're having my wife and I are having our first kid in April, and we have the name picked or whatever, but we almost made her middle name Aurora, just because of Rory, the daughter. We were like, oh, we kind of gotta now, right?
It's a pretty name as well. It's such
I love it. Yeah, and just that last season was so good. I'm not gonna spend 20 minutes on that, Josh, I promise.
Yeah. Well, I just want to so Christina, if people wanted to find more information about you, where can they go?
They can go to Twitter, and my Twitter handle is called eyes_on_the_skies. And then I also have a website where I post everything just kind of in one place. I have Discord, I have Facebook on there, I have all the articles I write, all the YouTube videos as well. And I have a new project coming out, it's already out, called Project Eyes on the Skies, where people can submit their UFO sightings either in photos or in videos, and then I go ahead and enhance them with the program that I use, which I originally did before I did podcasting. I would actually get public videos from YouTube or from MUFON, and I would enhance it, stabilize it, and to the best of my ability, just make sure that the object was best
Sounds
to be
like what
seen.
Krista does a little bit. Our friend Krista Alexander that did the documentary Lights in the Skies. She is a filmmaker, and she would do that. She would stabilize and do all those things. That's what led her to conclusion that they are simply lights. But I think she's also getting to the point where she thinks that they are beings of lights. Like because she was finding shapes and images and all kinds of incredible shapes, similar shapes and things like that. Yeah, it's really
insects and stuff.
Yeah, insect shapes. Yeah, almost look like a bumblebee, like on a number.
Or like
of
a
them.
mantis.
Yes,
Yeah.
like totally.
Yeah. It's insane what you can see through these kinds of videos sometimes if you have the right programs. So there's that. And then my YouTube channel is called Cristina Gomez, where I post every Tuesday and Friday, but not this Friday because I'm so busy. And I have one show called Mysteries with a History, where I talk about everything that falls under the umbrella of the paranormal and the supernatural, which for those that are watching, I learn with you. I spend hours upon hours, if not a full day, doing research on the topic before I actually go in. And I'm like, hey, well, welcome to the show. They're talking about blah, 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 blah. And I'm
Here's
like,
my Wikipedia read.
No. I mean, usually my notes are like 8 to 10 pages long. And then I have another show called Shifting the Paradigm, where I interview UFO researchers and enthusiasts and get to ask them all the questions that are just burning inside of me that I just gotta let out like fire, like a dragon.
I hear you, Smog. It's fine. It's fine. But so again, we love you. We love your shows. We love your stuff. I'm so glad that Chris and Christy pointed us towards you for us to get to spend the last couple weeks getting to know you online and watching your shows and things like that. It's been an absolute pleasure, and they are absolutely correct. You're just what did I say earlier? What did Chris say? That I said I don't want you to be embarrassed, but yeah, whatever it was. It was so good, I forgot it already.
Yeah.
But yeah. Just saying your praise is high. We do as well. We very much are so thankful that you spent some time with us today. And I could talk to you for a long time. I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff we could get into, and you are welcome back any damn time.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute blast. I love having these conversations with everyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Thank you.
We could totally dig us a deeper rabbit hole if we wanted to. But yeah, definitely, I think you will get a kick out of the Montauk project. So definitely check that out. So
I will. It'll be the next thing on my list. Eventually.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
That list is long.
Like, I have like
long.
17 books that I have like quarter read, half read. I can't not just, I get so interested and then I pick it back up later. But anyways, Cristina Gomez at the Debrief, as well as her fantastic shows. Make sure to check those out. Check out Cristina. Cristina, thank you so much. And I wanted to say I love that your Twitter handle is the same as my tag at the end of every one of our shows. As I say, my name is Stefan. Keep your eyes to the skies. So I love that. That made me smile. So, but you have a wonderful evening. And yeah, you keep your eyes to the skies.
Thank you. Right back at you.
And thank you so much to Cristina Gomez of the Debrief. You guys make sure to patron all her stuffs because it's all just absolutely phenomenal. We love you, really, Cristina. Paradigm Shifts, and she's just got so much cool stuff, guys. Please, please, please follow her on Twitter and all that stuff. We love you. Come back. I already miss you. I do, man. I do. I love all the Chris's that we get to speak to at the Debrief. So
I feel like if we were able to be in the same room with all three of them, it would be like hours.
It would be like a paranormal Christmas. Am I right?
It would be like a christening.
It is a christening. Anyways, yes. So let's get wrapping up here, Josh. Just a reminder again, if you guys have not been to FearScapeMedia.com, please check it out. We've got right on the front page, you guys can check out the playlist for our October crossover event with Slender Man, where you can get the true crime version from the Ghost in the Attic, Bodies in the Basement crew. You can get lore and legend from us, and then you can get from Lance and myself the horror movie version of Slender Man, where we talk about those. What a fantastic trio of episodes. It was a lot of fun. Check that out. We also have up there, you can now click the link to join the podcast, or join the network. So on that, you can kind of send us an idea of what you're looking at. If you've already got a podcast together and you'd like to share that with us and see about joining the network, let us know. Or if you've got some ideas that you want to discuss, send that to us as well. We're very interested in all of that. All you have to do is go to fearscapemedia.com and click join the network. Pretty simple. But other than that, Josh, I want to get to our last segment, unless you got something you want to say before we get creepy.
Nope.
Okay, I didn't think so. By the way, Cristina, noodles. That's all I'm going to say. It's noodles. But anyway, so we are going to get to our final segment of the week, which is Encounters from the FearScape. All right, Josh, this week, Encounters from the FearScape comes from a longtime listener. Someone's been listening since way back in the FearScape FM days. Stephen Pierce. I believe we've read one of his stories, 2 years ago or so. It's been a long time. Well, he hit us up with another story. It's short, but sweet, but spooky. So let's go ahead and take a listen to this week's story. Stephen Pierce from Louisville, Kentucky.
A couple of weeks ago, a picture that was hanging on the wall fell. After examination, I discovered the hook was straight, as if the picture was pulled straight down. Wednesday, I gave my daughter a slow cooker that had belonged to my deceased mother. Jamie said my mother was attached to it. Also, my mother claimed she was the one who pulled the picture down. What do you make of it?
Now, I do also want to mention, Stephen lives near where I used to work in Portland, Kentucky there. So right near 26th Street, which that whole area, Portland, the historic West End, is so rich in history and hauntings. Let me just tell you. I mean, you know all my stories from working at Argo there. And like Steve, that's how I really got connected with Stephen. He had heard one of my stories. And so I don't know, man. I mean, if your mother's going to be attached to something, I mean, I guess a slow cooker is the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, she probably really poured herself into it.
Oh, now, come on now, Josh. Come on now. Man, that's just it's getting real thick. Like a potato soup,
like a Sasquatch on the side of the road.
But yeah, Stephen, I don't know. I mean, I definitely think that we're big believers. So yeah, I think that they can manifest themselves. And I mean, hell, if we're looking at a slow cooker, especially if that's plugged in, there's an energy source that they could use. And if that's the case, definitely. And it pulled a picture down, then boom. I totally agree with that.
I'm interested if like the picture that it pulled down was somewhat significant to your mother at all.
Ooh, yeah. And I know you're listening. So yeah, hit us up. Let us know if that picture had anything to do with your mother, because that would be interesting as well. But Josh, I want to get out of here. Again, big thank you to the Debrief, and a big thank you to Cristina Gomez. Go check her stuff out. It's good.
Yep.
I'm going to say it again.
Really, all the stuff, debrief.org is thedebrief.org. It's just phenomenal. So.
It is absolutely phenomenal. And also, don't forget, you can download the FearScape Media Network app on the Google Play Store, your one-stop shop for all the incredible podcasts, and always hit up our YouTube for all of the great shows like Astral Stew and all of that fun stuff. But Josh, we are going to rock and roll and get out of here, man. Happy Halloween to everybody. I know we're close or there or whatnot, but I love this month so much. Josh, you're coming in town next week, so I'm excited to see what happens. We're hooking up with Shane Hurd and Jason McClellan, so I'm sure we're going to have some fun stories about UFO hunting. It's going to be an absolute blast, so I'm excited. But let's get out of here. Thank you guys so much for listening to FearScape Paranormal Podcast here on the FearScape Media Network. My name is Stefan, and I just want to remind you to keep your eyes on the skies.
This has been Josh. The truth is now.
And remember, folks, hold those blankets extra tight. Things tend to get spooky when you're listening to FearScape. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
We hope you have enjoyed this guidepost on the road of high strangeness with us. And we thank you, as always, for listening and joining our caravan to the weird and unknown. Please consider supporting us as we continue our journey to find the answers we all seek. FearScapePodcast.com/support.